In Secret Wars, the Avengers formed an all-new team, an all-female team, A-Force. And actually, that's not quite true, is it? As I recall, now I'm off on the wrong track already. I recall there were some men hanging out on the island, but the primary members of A-Force were women. I think that's Medusa was the leader. I'm on the wrong track already. Oh, let's talk about A-Force. Hey everybody, this is Perch. A-Force, for whatever reason, is the Avengers title that everyone has been asking me to do the most. And I'm not sure precisely why. 2016, this is on people's minds. I suspect it's like half people who really actually love the title want me to go into it, and half is people who are hoping I'll just super dunk on it. A-Force was a G. Willow Wilson's first book. Oh, Jesus, what's this cover? This is... Marvel was doing these cosplay variant covers, and this is terrifying. I'm sorry. I shouldn't. That's probably the most shade I'm going to give to a card in this review. But that's how this yikes. Okay, so anyway, A-Force. On Battleworld, during Secret Wars, Jonathan Hickman, there's an island paradise called Arcadia, and it was protected by the women of A-Force, although somewhere in the back of my mind, I seem to remember there's a guy hanging out on that island, but I may be wrong. Anyway, Battleworld is gone. The Marvel Universe is reset back to normal, and everything is basically, back to how it was. And so the comic opens, and this is during the time a pre-Secret Empire, where there was a floating sword space station, and Captain Marvel was kind of running the show up there. She was our space guardian of Earth. This was a little bit of kind of what they went into with the movie, but it was an odd time for Captain Marvel because it was like they were pushing her as a big character in the Marvel Universe, but then they were seeming like doing everything possible to not have her on the Earth and not fighting kind of big threatening villains. She'd fight like energy disruptions and angry cats and things. It was like somebody at Marvel was deliberately trying to sabotage whatever efforts they were trying to do with Captain Marvel. It felt that way, as a reader anyway. It always felt like people were like, okay, we're ready for the big story. Okay, we're on board. She's a big hero. Let's get it. She's fighting Doctor Doom, Ultron, Galactus. What are we doing with her? No, she's fighting space aliens that we've never seen before. What's going on? Anyway, so this comic opens up in space, and basically Singularity is a character from the Secret Wars. She's like kind of a Captain Universe. She's a teen girl, I think. It's like a little bit hard. She's got that alien naive thing where she doesn't really know what's going on. It's like, ooh, you got coffee. And she remembers the old world, a battle world. She remembers. This book, by the way, writing was by G. Willow Wilson. I think this is the first time that she was doing a teen book, at least with Marvel. She had been doing Miss Marvel, of course, and then she moved over to this teen book. A little bit like Al Ewing, I feel, and as it goes into it, I feel like her strengths are more in solo books as opposed to the teen book. They like too many things get juggled. Paco Molina is the artist, and he's doing inking and penciling, and it actually pulled it off pretty well. I'd say a lot of art suffers in that, but not here. It's pretty crisp, pretty clean. Anyway, so it is A-Force, and Singularity is here, and meanwhile, Captain Marvel's like looking out in the window. She's carding out the window, and she's got her little assistant there with a coffee. And as she's looking at the girl, suddenly Singularity comes running in. She's adorkable, and she's given her Captain Marvel a super big hug. And then, she caused the little assistant here, scientist, to drop her coffee. Singularity has the power to stick things inside of herself. That didn't sound right. She could absorb things into her body. That still doesn't sound right. Anyway, there's a recent plot in Captain Marvel's book where, like, the Avengers are hiding out inside of her. This sounds perverted, but it's not. She can just absorb stuff. We're just going to go with that. She's like the absorbing space girl. Anyway, so they're on the space station. There's another crazy energy pulse. Something is going on. Something of anger and rage and pain. There's something called antimatter, and it's causing some trouble. So Captain Marvel goes out to punch it, and Singularity's like, I should go help too. Now she beamed in through the walls and can fly through space, but for whatever reason, she decides to go to a space escape pod and eject herself out onto Earth, and so she does. Carol faces alone. Singularity is afraid, so she uses the escape pod and hurtles toward Earth. Captain Marvel tries punching this energy Nazi right in the face, but it doesn't seem to work. And Singularity proves that she's a terrible driver by just crashing right through the New Atlan. This was, again, during the time when the Inhumans were a thing. And the spaceship just goes plummeting right into the ground, messes some stuff up. And they are immediately right in front of two helpless bystanders who are Matt Fraction and Kelly Sue DeConnick. And you might think, oh, no, he's just making up. No, that is who this is. This is a self-insert of Matt Fraction and Kelly Sue. Polished up a little bit, but that's who this is. And they're suggesting they Instagram the spaceship, and then we get a little joke about how Matt Fraction wants to adopt Singularity, and Kelly Sue's like, no way, child free. Remember, we agreed, no children. And okay, so Singularity saves them against everyone's better judgment. Antimatter comes in and just starts blowing stuff up. And Singularity does the only thing she knows how, which is she teleports herself into She-Hulk's lawyer office and gives Jennifer a hug. And the battle continues. Lasers are shooting through office buildings. Like, there's this little lawyer guy who's trying to escape, and he's just vaporized immediately. So far, the A-Force are not doing much saving. This is the classic assembling the team issue. But right now, there's a lot more just murder going on than anything else. So space energy bad guy grabs Jennifer Walters, chucks her out the building. Singularity flies down and saves her. We get like a little romantic moment sort of between them. It's meant to be cute, but it's got some feels. And they are they're running to punch this thing some more. Everybody, the solution here is punching, but the big antimatter evil thing just blasts them away. And suddenly, Medusa shows up. Now, Medusa was a leader on Arcadia during Secret Wars, and so she was the one that Singularity really respected and trusted. And she shows up, and Singularity's like, all right, you're alive. Here's my buddy, my friend. She goes over for a hug, and Medusa whips out some space shackles from somewhere. This is a nerdy thing, I know, to realize, but it always bugs me when, you see the character on panel number 1, and she's walking, and she's got her super hair, which has just got to be filthy, right? I mean, the ends of that hair is dragging on the ground. They never really have addressed, the dirt. There'd be like this dark line of dirt on her hair. Anyway, when she's in her skin-tight outfit and everything else, and she has no signs of handcuffs, but in the next panel, she puts the handcuffs on the energy being that flew through the spaceship and everything else. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work, but Singularity seems surprised, the betrayal of the friend, and then there you go, and that's it. So, there we have it. And I think that, as I recall, as the series went in, G. Willow Wilson was ultimately teamed up with Kelly Thompson. I think Kelly Thompson came onto this book to write it. It didn't last very long. It did introduce Dazzler and Nico from the Runaways onto the team as well. So it was kind of the 6 of them. Captain Marvel, Medusa, She-Hulk, Singularity, Dazzler, and Nico. And they do some fighting, and they stop this energy blast, and then there's zombies, as I recall, and Dazzler gets killed but then resurrected. I don't think the issue went, the comic went 12 issues, although I may be incorrect about that. As a comic, it's not a bad idea. Okay, so we got some of the women of the Avengers, or women who aren't Avengers, but then they become Avengers. It's A-Force. I always thought A-Force was ass force, which is not what this book is, but I always felt like that name. Whenever I hear it, I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. That's always what it feels like to me. Anyway, so in October 2016, it didn't last very long. The comic had poor sales, which was, again, a little surprising. It went 10 issues. And it never really clicked. The first run, the volume 1 run, actually did do well. When it was on Secret Wars, it actually did quite well. That was also G. Willow Wilson. It was one of the series that I think did better than others. Marjorie Bennett, I think, also was there, and in the comic, it seemed to click, and then it then just kind of. I don't know, when it came into the regular universe. I mean, keep in mind, by the way, Marvel was going through a lot at the time. Some people have claimed, hey, an all-female book of the Avengers will never sell. No, quite. I disagree completely. I mean, I think you can put on some popular. I think you could get Black Widow in there. You can get a bunch of kind of more recognizable characters. I think part of the problem here is that you had Singularity, you had Dazzler and Nico. You had a weird mix. And keep in mind, Marvel was pushing the Inhumans thing really, really hard at this moment, and they were rebooting everything after like 8 to 10 issues. So it just there was never any, like, the message to readers and to fans was, don't bother jumping onto anything. It's going to get erased in a minute anyway. So, who cares? That unfortunately, I don't. Marvel wasn't setting out to do that, but that's definitely what got communicated to the buyers. It got this kind of like, nah, if you miss it, it doesn't matter. And in a lot of cases, I know some fans were interested in this, but it kind of came and went so fast. Once it left, it was like, well, okay, I guess it's gone now. And that's a problem. It's definitely a problem for Marvel. It's a problem for their books in that they've slipped into this right around 2015 to about 2018. They were really having a hard go of it with relaunches, and it was kind of all over the place. So it unfortunately, like I said, it effectively was canceled 10 issues later. There was some desire. We heard that there were intentions to run it through Civil War II, and there's going to be some bigger characters brought into the book, but it kind of petered out there around, issue 1 sold over 100,000 copies. Issue 9 sold 23,000 copies. So it gives you a sense of, how bad it was. The book was said to be on a hiatus, that it would just be shortly canceled, but that was not the case. It just ended, and it hasn't come back again. So, take it for what it's worth. This was another issue of the Avengers. It was like, I think, some people disagree with this on the channel, but I think if you're going to try an experiment, right, you're going to try an all-female version of the Avengers, you need to commit. You got to commit to the bit. You got to follow through. You got to go for some time. You can't kind of dip your toe in and out in 10 issues and be done. You have to really, kind of, get a big story, push forward, barrel through it. I think that's pretty important if you want your readers to trust you, that you're actually, this experiment is more than just an experiment. It's actually, key, and not kind of, a lot of these books felt like kind of a by the numbers plot. That's kind of the problem. Is it felt like, it felt like there was a mandate on editorial to say, hey, make a team of Avengers all women, and then what happens in there, just figure it out. It didn't feel like there was a plan. Like people didn't sit down and said, okay, by issue 25 we want to have this major moment, the sacrifice, and then we want to cross over with the other Avengers title to give it, to make sure that everybody sees that the actions are impacting each other's universe. And we need to have something big happen in A-Force that's going to be reflecting Avengers and vice versa. It didn't feel like any of that. So it felt like very much a missable book. And that's the trick. Anyway, there's nothing in here that's bad. It just, there's nothing in here that goes, hey, keep reading. And that's really a challenge. But it certainly is not because it was an all female roster or anything like that. Again, you can make that exact same comment about the Ultimates book that came out, about the Mighty Avengers, about New Avengers, about regular Avengers. Like this time period had a lot of that. Miss it and you'll be okay as a message. Anyway, my opinion. What do you think? Leave me a comment below. Love to know what you think. Would this experiment work again? Should they try again with this title, or is it time to just like make the D-Force? That does not sound right. Anyway, I'll just stop there. I'm just going to dig myself a giant hole. Like, subscribe, introduce to a friend, bring people to the table. Would love to hear thoughts and opinions and everything else. But Twitter, Facebook, Comic Perch, you can follow me there. But most importantly, thanks for listening.